In the long, dark years of 2020 and 2021, I had one clear thought that eventually cut through the fog. If this virus kills me, I am gonna be pissed. Not because of dying, actually, but because I never really got my life off the ground. In her book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, a palliative care nurse named Bronnie Ware conveyed the most common regrets she heard from patients in the last weeks of their lives. And the number one most common regret was this: I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. That's exactly the ending I was heading for as my 50s were coming to an end. I'd had all the potential in the world, but I never fulfilled it. But why?
There is no escape, my young apprentice.
In movies, the villains are often obvious.
The Alliance will die.
They're creepy.
Well, a boy's best friend is his mother.
Bullying.
Friday! I won't be there. You will!
No, don't.
Yes! 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 Yes!
Or irredeemably bad.
You wouldn't mind living in the nicest house in town? Buying your wife a lot of fine clothes? You wouldn't mind that, would you, Jones?
But in life, it can be a lot harder to see the darkness hiding in plain sight.
Long.
That looked pretty good.
It was out.
It did look good.
Frank, it was out.
It's my call. Out. If you can, try and hit it at your mother's backhand. It's pretty weak.
Got it.
Villains can be charming.
I have stopped everything in order to teach you how to dive, because it is as important for me to see you dive as it is for me to appear on Good Morning America.
Dr. Murray! I'm failing!
Whoa!
Funny.
Wendy, I'm home.
Charismatic.
It doesn't make any difference to me what a man does for a living, you understand?
The life of every party.
Why is he still alive? That vexes me. I'm terribly vexed.
They might be somebody everybody loves. A winner surrounded by admirers. My grandfather was all of these things. He played lead trumpet during the big band era, traveling the country, on stage every night. All he ever wanted to be was a jazz musician. Music even saved him from the battlefield during the Second World War, which he spent playing lead trumpet in the U.S. Army Band. And when the Army Band wasn't keeping him busy, Papa was playing poker and table tennis against his comrades. He made more money from his winnings than what the Army paid him, and he sent it all home to his wife, my grandmother. When he got home from the war, he and my grandmother traveled full-time with a big band for years. One of the many stories he told about that time was when the band leader hired a young soloist to play with them. His name was Miles Davis. My grandfather complained to the band leader and to me that Miles really couldn't play his horn very well. The band leader said, "Yeah, but he's a great soloist." And my grandfather, who always needed to be number one, said, "Fine, but get me a trumpet player who can play the parts." Papa's idea of a great trumpet player was Maynard Ferguson. Maynard played louder and higher than anyone ever. Despite an entire childhood spent listening to countless hours of jazz, I never even heard Miles Davis play until I was in my 20s. When his kids reached school age, traveling became much more complicated. Now, he and my grandmother were based in Chicago, which is a huge city. He could have settled down there and found plenty of gigs, but he didn't want to be one of those guys who was always struggling to find enough gigs.
You know, my mother died when I was 6. He got married again when I was 10, and she died when I was 13.
So family was extremely important to him. So he put his trumpet in the closet and vowed never to touch it again. He got a job in an advertising agency, and he spent the next 40 years working his way up to vice president. He never played the trumpet again, but his glory days as a musician were all he ever talked about.
Virus death surge in Brazil, it is now the second highest toll in the world.
Hey, don't eat my mask.
And my grandfather always needed challenges. And since he wasn't playing music anymore, he'd taken up tennis. By the time I was born, when he was only 40 years old, he'd already accumulated shelves full of trophies.
Stay.
He was an absolutely merciless competitor. It didn't matter if you were 8 or 80. He loved to win. He outplayed and outdid me, my brother, and anyone foolish enough to challenge him.
You know, I was always playing racquetball or tennis, doing both 8 days a week.
Photography, cooking, table tennis, and poker, in which he cheerfully relieved us of our money, tricking us with flawless misdirection. Through it all, he never stopped spoiling us rotten, taking us camping, buying us ice cream and innumerable presents, making us laugh until we begged him to stop.
You're very lucky to have a family.
From my kid's perspective, he was a giant, a hero. Everything he did better than anybody else.
You see how fit I am, how strong? Yeah, as hard as you can.
Some of these people I meet at the weightlifting gym, you know, and I said, yeah, I've been lifting weights for over 70 years. I started when I was in high school. I don't think they believe me, but...
Only the fit survive.
Whenever I saw my grandfather, we would spend hours listening to jazz. Above all, he loved to tell stories where some young hotshot was showing off. And some genius with off-the-scale talent would quietly walk through the door.
Art Tatum.
And everybody said, that's God, you know, right there.
Well, that's right. You got it.
Yeah.
And proceed to destroy the hotshot's confidence with a superior performance.
Musical intimidation.
The piano's got 88 keys and he ain't got but 10 fingers.
Yeah.
I mean,
but he made it sound like
that's right. He sounded like two people playing.
Yeah.
If a soloist was playing, they're playing something above this tempo. He would lay one of these on him like. And of course, right?
That's just what you've been doing to me all the time.
Papa was a born storyteller with a musician's ear for voices and a gift for painting pictures in your mind. By the time I started kindergarten, I knew exactly what I wanted to be: a jazz piano player.
Mary, I know what I'm going to do tomorrow and the next day and next year and a year after that. I'm shaking the dust of this crummy little town off my feet and I'm going to see the world.
I just wanted to be like my grandfather, a winner, a jazz hero. Now, when I was in 5th grade, I was given my first chance to play a piano solo in the grade school jazz band.
Remember, sir, 3 flashes, then steady red means your life.
And because we were kids without the slightest idea how to improvise jazz, a piano solo had already been written out.
Who will stand between us, the jackboots, and the proletarian abyss? You?
And I showed it to my grandfather. "This is garbage," he pronounced. "I'll write you a real solo." And he did, and it was great.
Have a go yourself.
And it also happened to be just beyond my abilities to play it. Now, on the day of the concert, he drove the 3 hours from Chicago to attend. I remember everything about that night. The way the band was set up in the gymnasium facing the bleachers, the unused stage on the opposite end of the room from the cafeteria, and most of all, the 2 solos sitting in front of me. The one my grandfather had deemed garbage, which I could play, and the superior solo he'd written himself, which I couldn't. If I played his solo less than perfectly, he'd definitely be disappointed. If I played the garbage solo, he might even be more disappointed that I'd wasted his time. I wasn't sure. Right up to the moment of my solo, I couldn't decide what to do. All I could think about was my grandfather sitting somewhere in the bleachers, waiting to see what kind of winner I was. Finally, the solo began. And in a fog, I began to play. The old solo. The garbage. My face burning with shame. Afterwards, I waited while he talked to my parents. On the ride home, I asked my parents what he'd said, and my father, who prided himself on his honesty, told me. He said, "Brian will never be a jazz player." I was 10 years old. I wanted him to teach me the things he knew so I could finally impress him. To hear him say, "Good job," just once would have meant everything to me. But over and over, Papa made it clear that there are two kinds of people in the world. Those born geniuses, destined for greatness. Maynard Ferguson, Oscar Peterson. And then there was everyone else, who were just wasting their time. The idea that teaching and practice had anything to do with greatness was never raised. His prophecy didn't kill my love for jazz. He just never taught me anything.
Jettison Brian.
No, we can't do that. Nice fellow.
And the terms of our relationship became clear.
I tolerate him because he laughs at my jokes.
Later, when I started playing music for him that I loved, he'd shrug politely and say it just wasn't his cup of tea. But when I tried to show him something I'd created myself, he'd just look away and say something like, "Let's see what's for dinner."
The Tatalias will guarantee it.
Oh, are you telling me that the Tatalias guarantee our investment?
There could only be one star in our family. Now, if this kind of treatment had come from anyone outside the family...
I have a sentimental weakness for my children, and I've spoiled them, as you can see. They talk when they should listen.
It might have actually spurred me to prove them wrong, or simply to dismiss their comments as cruel. But when you hear it as a child from someone you know you should be able to trust...
You're losing, you're losing, you're losing.
You're just not equipped to persuade your emotions that you didn't deserve it.
Always win. Always win.
Children need to believe that their caretakers are good. And that they have their best interests at heart.
You just have to go and have a word with the conductor.
Perhaps because the alternative is unbearable.
I'll be right back.
For 19 more years, I tried to become a great jazz pianist. But the harder I tried, the more tense I would get. As if I was fighting some overwhelming force. The day I finally graduated from college, I came home and put my music degree in the closet.
Better clean up your act.
In the living room was the huge grand piano that I'd worked through school to pay for.
You're going to come in second, you know.
I played incredibly difficult pieces by Bach, Chopin, Brahms. I'd sung and recorded albums with the Boston Symphony Orchestra. I'd written and performed music for theater productions, rock bands, choirs, classical and jazz ensembles. I'd been studying and playing music for 24 years, but what was once a joy had become twisted. I was always desperate for praise while simultaneously mistrusting it. I couldn't keep the voices in my head quiet long enough to develop any ideas. Music had become inseparable from pain. So I quit.
I went to the woods because I wanted to live deliberately. I wanted to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life.
I'll second that.
To put to rout all that was not life, and not when I had come to die, discover that I had not lived.
I spent 3 of my darkest years searching for a new direction, ultimately deciding to pursue filmmaking. I worked furiously to learn everything about it.
The world is their oyster. They believe they're destined for great things, just like many of you. Their eyes are full of hope, just like you. Did they wait until it was too late to make from their lives even one iota of what they were capable? Because you see, gentlemen, These boys are now fertilizing daffodils.
But a problem still crippled me. I would sabotage or abandon the things I started, leaving countless promising projects unfinished.
For the first time in my whole life, I know what I want to do. And for the first time, I'm going to do it! Whether my father wants me to or not. Carpe diem!
The truth is that I hadn't been able to admit to myself that the charismatic, funny, and inspiring grandfather who dominated my life had done anything wrong. So instead, I looked for some flaw in myself that would justify how he treated me.
Happy birthday.
Thanks.
What'd you get?
My parents gave me this.
Isn't this the same desk?
Yeah, they gave me the same thing as last year.
I increasingly got into relationships with people who treated me as if I was worthless, or worse, who recognized my abilities, used me to create work, and then stole the credit for it. I'd learned that the only reliable way to get my grandfather's attention was to tell him stories of my failures, and I had plenty. He found these hilarious.
You take a big risk by encouraging them to become artists, John. When they realize that they're not Rembrandts, Shakespeare's, or Mozart's, they'll hate you for it.
And it's important to clarify that it wasn't just one remark at 10 years old, and it also wasn't just my grandfather who left me so unsure of myself.
Funny, I never pegged you as a cynic. A realist. Show me the heart unfettered by foolish dreams, and I'll show you a happy man.
At rock bottom, a partner told me that I should downplay my skills because they intimidated other people. Was that my purpose on Earth? To avoid being good at anything so I wouldn't intimidate people? Hearing this message spelled out explicitly finally made me realize that I'd been hiding and sabotaging my true abilities my whole life. But why would anyone do something so obviously self-destructive? I did it without realizing I was doing it. My grandfather didn't just introduce me to jazz and ping pong and how to build a good campfire. He inadvertently taught me the terms for being loved. As long as he was the winner and I was the loser who admired and gave him all the attention he craved, he would love me. As a kid, I didn't understand that this was a rotten deal that would cost me everything.
So no musicians in the family. Well, you just gotta listen to the greats then. Buddy Rich, Joe Jones. You know, Charlie Parker became Bird because Jones threw a cymbal at his head. See what I'm saying? Mm-hmm.
But there's a surprising twist to this story that actually helped me to come to terms with it. My obsessive quest for his approval drove me to master a long, long list of fantastically useful skills. I wildly overcompensated for the fact that nothing ever impressed him.
Camera rolling.
And action.
Hi there. How was your trip?
And also went out of my way to support and teach other people to avoid hurting anyone the way he hurt me.
Sure. He's all right.
I simply wouldn't be the person I am today had my grandfather been any different. It's just taken a lifetime to finally allow myself to make use of what I learned without holding myself back. Even after the sobering experience of the pandemic, it finally took getting laid off from yet another dead-end job on the cusp of my 60th birthday to wake up to the fact that it's now or never, and that I have nothing to lose.
Listen to me!
Listen to you by what right? Why should I waste my time listening to you?
Because I have a right to be. I have a voice!
Yes, you do.
It was still incredibly difficult to tell this story, but also liberating to try and explain it. I hope it will help some of you who face similar challenges. The truth is, love which demands that we sacrifice our authenticity or pretend that we're less than we are isn't love. We serve no one by denying ourselves the lives we dream of. On the contrary, we are meant to fly. And when we do, the world rejoices to see a dreamer become a doer.